Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and today's show is presented by Panda Subs. Before we get into just a landslide of quarterback rumors, I do want to tell you about our awesome sponsor, Panda Subs, and if you're trying to get into better shape, use code Raiders for 20% off. That link's going to be available to you all down in the comments and down in the description of today's show. So coming up here on the show, it's going to be Antonio Pierce. Does he want Aidan O'Connell? There's a report out right now saying that AP wants AOC. I'll weigh in on it. LV linked to Kirk Cousins. Multiple sources out there have been linking the Minnesota Vikings quarterback to the silver and black. I'll tell you what I think. And then Justin Fields to the Raiders. We'll talk about this yet again. But let's first start here with Antonio Pierce and Aidan O'Connell. There's a report from Tony Pauline that said Aidan O'Connell seemed to be the choice of Antonio Pierce. We know that Pierce has spoke very highly of Aidan this entire offseason. Hell, spoke very highly of him during the regular season. When I was out at Media Row, I was talking to multiple Raiders players, and they spoke very, very highly of Aidan too, saying that he's a great human being, he's a very, very nice guy. Luke Getsy recently has said he's excited to work with him. So I think when you add all that stuff together, and then you finish the fact that the Raiders were 5-4 with Antonio Pierce, and the fact that they kept AP, there's a lot of people out there that think, like, all right, well, we're just going to run it again with AOC. This is the exact quote from Pauline, which has kind of sprouted this rumor around the Raiders potentially sticking with Aidan O'Connell. O'Connell seemed to be the top choice of Antonio Pierce, who had the interim tag removed from his title a few weeks ago and was named head coach after a successful tenure taking over for McDaniels. I do want to say this, though, right? And I get that people got to make content, people got to put stuff out there, but I want to say this, and I'm going to say it once and for all, because I've said it, I feel like 100 times on this show. Tony Pauline is not a credible source. Like, if you think Tony Pauline is a credible source, then you probably think Taco Bell is Mexican food. Like, I can only picture up here Alex's mom saying, do you want a Doritos Gordita Crunch? No. Yeah, like, you're not going to get that. There's a reason why Taco Bell has tried to go to Mexico 2 times, and it has failed both times. It's not Mexican food. Just like Tony Pauline is not an NFL insider. I get it. He's got a check mark. He's got a few followers. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. So here's your opportunity to be honest with me after I was just honest with you. Do you want Aidan O'Connell to be the Raiders starting quarterback? Give me a yes, or I want you to give me a no. And this is going to be the pinned comment on today's show, which means you're about to get hit with the YouTube ad break. I want you to scroll on down and give me your opinion. My opinion on this is no, I do not want Aidan O'Connell to be the Raiders starting quarterback. He is a great human being. He is a great dude, and he is going to be a quarterback in the NFL for a very long time. I actually see him, and I've said this before, his career is going to look a lot like what Brian Hoyer was, where he's never going to be a good starter, but he's going to be able to be a reliable backup, could get 10 to 15 years in the league. But from the Raiders players that I talked to, and I talked to multiple players at Media Day, they think that he is a great human being, a great dude, a hardworking quarterback. However, they don't view him as a starting quarterback right now. He might be a starting QB 4 or 5 years down the road. But the players that I talk to that also know what the Raiders are trying to do this year understand that the best chance of them to actually win is not with Aidan as the starting quarterback. For that reason, I do not want AOC to be a starter in 2024 because I don't think that there's a single NFL team, all 32 NFL teams, would not take Aidan to be their starting quarterback. That should be a very loud reminder in your head of why Aidan is just a backup. Coming up next here on the show, Kirk Cousins has been linked to the silver and black, and this has been a very popular name, and a few weeks ago, I talked about Cousins. And when you have a guy like Davante Adams that mentions him, guess what? People are going to listen. But I want you to join the show. I want you to join the Raiders Report family here. We're getting close to 166,000 subscribers. We're adding new subs every single day, every single week. And if you're wondering, Mitch, why should I subscribe? First reason, it's free. Free is for me. If you don't like the show after a week, hit unsubscribe. But to the people that watch the show religiously, why would you tell somebody to sub? Like, you're going to get news. You're going to get rumors. You're going to get some shenanigans of us doing beer bongs here and there. When breaking news happens, I got you covered. But if you've ever felt like this team is more than just a team, it's like it controls whether you're happy or sad. I feel the exact same way. Believe me when I tell you that. And I want to celebrate together. I want to go through the woes together. So join the family. Hit that subscribe button. So let's talk about Kirk Cousins now potentially going to the silver and black, and Cousins has been linked to the Raiders all offseason because of the Davante Adams mentioning the fact that he would be open to the idea of playing with Cousins this offseason. Also, Sports Illustrated listed the Raiders as one of the top designations for Captain Kirk. I saw an article released by The Athletic that had Kirk Cousins as the #1 quarterback most likely to be the Raiders starting quarterback. I also put out a video about 2-3 weeks ago at this point, and the quarterback that I thought was the most likely to be under center for the silver and black was, in fact, Kirk Cousins. So there's been a lot of connections there. And the reason why I think that is because I know the Raiders want a quarterback. And I know Tom Telesco wants a guy that helps them compete right now. I am scared about Cousins because, yes, he's put up very good numbers, but one of the things that I am reserved about, especially for the Raiders, is, let's face it, he's got a popped Achilles. You don't know when he's going to be able to play this offseason, and the Raiders just did this exact same song and dance last offseason where they signed Jimmy Garoppolo. He wasn't able to practice all offseason, and he was unable to get that chemistry going. That means you're going to sign Kirk Cousins to another big-time deal where he can't practice, can't work in the Luke Getsy offense, and he has no idea how it's run, and he's not going to be able to work with players that are all around him. All of those things make me extremely nervous. However, if you're looking for the top quarterback in free agency, it is, in fact, Kirk Cousins. In terms of the Sports Illustrated designations for Captain Kirk, here's how they ranked them. These were their top 5 designations for Kirk. Number 1 was the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 2 was the Las Vegas Raiders. Number 3, and the sole reason why the Niners are on here, is because of Shanahan's relationship with Cousins. It is very, very strong. The Atlanta Falcons come in at number 4. The New York Giants come in at number 5. But this is what Sports Illustrated had to say on the Raiders potentially signing Kirk Cousins. The Raiders should make an aggressive run for Cousins because, unlike the Giants and Falcons, Las Vegas doesn't have a top 10 draft pick. The Silver and Black should pay what it takes to lure Cousins and pair him with star wide receiver Davante Adams, who recently praised the Vikings signal caller. The Raiders currently have $35.2 million in cap space to possibly make the highest bid for Cousins. Las Vegas' current starting quarterback is Aidan O'Connell, who had a decent rookie year, but he might be more of a high-end backup quarterback than a reliable starter for a full season. With Cousins, the Raiders could have a balanced attack. Coach Antonio Pierce proved last season he knows how to produce a productive ground game with Zamir White and Josh Jacobs, a pending free agent. The Raiders could also draft a quarterback with their number 13 pick, but at that point, they might have the 4th or 5th option for signal callers in the 2024 draft. With Cousins, the Raiders could make serious noise in the AFC West. So here's my question again, and you're going to find that this is what we do on this show. Should the Raiders sign Kirk Cousins? It's an honest question. If you think that, yes, Mitch, they should go get Cousins, type sign. If you want to be an overachiever, give me what you think that contract looks like, because you're about to see what my contract looks like. If you're saying no way, cool, you can type pass. My only thing that I'll request is, what is your option then? Is it you're going to go out and draft a Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr.? Are you going to try to trade for Justin Fields? Are you going to try to go out and sign Russell Wilson? Are you going to trade up for Jaden Daniels? Should the Raiders sign Kirk Cousins, sign or pass? This is my stance, and this will continuously be my stance on how the Raiders quarterback plan is going to be, and I released a video 2 weeks ago about what the Raiders quarterback plan is, and it's this. Jaden Daniels is plan A. This is the guy that they want. If they are unable to trade, which if the Raiders make a trade, it's going to be during the combine. I believe it's going to happen before free agency. If they realize that they cannot get that deal done, then your shift goes to somebody like Kirk Cousins. Then maybe you draft somebody like Bo Nix to pair with Cousins and just take over after Cousins is done after 2 years. Plan A, Jaden Daniels. After that, it is Cousins. If you want to check out my Raiders 2024 plan at QB, here's the thumbnail. This link actually is also going to be available to all of y'all down in the comments, and it's going to be down in the description of today's show if you want to go check it out. But essentially, I lay out an entire blueprint of Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, Plan D. I know some of y'all get a little ease when I say Plan B. Don't worry, it's not all that bad. If you want to go check out that video, it's on the channel. In terms of what I believe the contract projection looks like for the veteran, this is what I would offer him if I'm the Raiders. And I'm always going to be like this. To me, I'm going to lowball Cousins. I'm going to offer him a 2-year, $65 million deal with $65 million guaranteed. That's $32.5 million per year. I know the Raiders are going to offer their quarterback, if they go out and sign him, a 2-year deal. There's a reason why Cliff Kingsbury was offered a 2-year deal. There's a reason why I'm hitting you with a 2-year deal here. It's because from what I hear, from what I understand, that's the direction that the Raiders want to go in. PFF projects $70 million with $50 million guaranteed. To me, if we go a little bit less money per year, then you can give him a little bit more guaranteed. And throughout his entire career, Kirk Cousins has looked for guaranteed money. The Spotrac deal is more based on, I think, if Cousins was 100% healthy and not coming off a popped Achilles. Because he's coming off the popped Achilles, and because the Raiders situation is maybe different than some other NFL teams where, again, got to learn a brand new offense, got to learn a lot of new chemistry, and you need him to be a top 12 quarterback, plus you got to be able to build a lot of starters around him on that offensive line. This is the deal that I would personally offer Kirk Cousins. Coming up next here on the show, Justin Fields to Las Vegas. We talked about a report that came out yesterday, and I broke it all down. I'm going to go in a little bit more depth on it because I found myself when I got done watching that video, and believe me, I go back and I watch my videos too. It might surprise you. I was like, man, there was one thing that I wish I really, really would have said, because I feel like me putting out that video, everyone was like, oh, you think Justin Fields is going to come to the Raiders? I don't think that Justin Fields is going to come to the Raiders, and there's a big reason why behind that. Before I get into the latest here around Fields potentially joining the Silver and Black, I do got to tell you about our awesome sponsor here, Panda Sups, and they are now introducing First Blood, the pre-workout that's more American than a bald eagle riding a Harley Davidson through the Grand Canyon. This pre-workout contains a powerhouse formula that is so intense it makes Mount Rushmore look like nothing more than a quaint rock formation. You may be asking, for a pre-workout this powerful, what flavor is worthy of gracing our palate? Well, get ready to taste freedom with the commie tears. It's like biting into the Constitution, but sour, gummy, and packed with more patriotism per scoop than Abe Lincoln can fit into his top hat. Your freedom is now in your hands. And the reason why I love pre-workout, which I used to be a little bit nervous about pre-workout, I'll also say I can actually handle a lot of caffeine. Like, I'm the type of person where I can drink probably 5-6 cups of coffee a day, and sometimes I need to do it to be able to keep up the energy here. But if you're somebody who doesn't handle caffeine well and you end up getting this pre-workout, I would actually recommend like a quarter scoop, a half a scoop. Like, you're going to get a lot more out of this than what you realize. And this is kind of embarrassing, and I swear to you, it's 100% true. You can ask Alex DMer on Instagram. I'd worked out yesterday, I'm not kidding you, at 1 o'clock in the morning. Why? Because I took some pre-workout that Panda Sups gave me, and I was wired, and I was just laying in bed. I'm like, I'm wasting my time. I got up, I worked out at 1 o'clock in the morning, went back to bed at 2, got up for work, and kept it moving. If you want to get the most out of your new year, pandasups.com, code Raiders, 20% off. As you can see, that link's going to be available to y'all down in the comments and in the description of today's show. All right, let's talk about Justin Fields now. The report last night from Tony Pauline, again, a fraud, said that the Raiders are interested in Justin Fields. Then the latest odds have the Raiders as a potential destination, which does not surprise me whatsoever. And the reason why that this situation is a very interesting situation to me is because there's no doubt about it. The amount of connections that Fields has with the Raiders coaching staff, players, I mean, there are so many connections, and we know how much that matters in the NFL. When you look at the latest DraftKings sports odds, this is where they believe Fields ends up landing. The Atlanta Falcons are the favorite at minus 130. Then the Bears at plus 200. The Steelers at plus 350. Raiders plus 450. Patriots 1,000. Like, I look at these odds right here, and they are very, very intriguing to me. There's no doubt about that. So here's your time to look into that crystal ball. Where do you think Fields is going to play in 2024? You don't have to say the Raiders. In fact, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think it's the Las Vegas Raiders. If you had to put your money where your mouth is, where do you think Justin Fields plays this upcoming season? I personally believe that he ends up playing for the Atlanta Falcons. And the Falcons are the team that they're picking number 8, and I don't know if they're going to be able to go up and get one of the top 3 quarterbacks. So could you potentially look at Fields, who has got a lot of ties to the city of Atlanta, has a lot of ties to that state. Remember, when he was first coming out of college, he was like the number 1 quarterback recruit. Where did he go? Georgia. Then he ended up transferring to Ohio State. Plus, on top of that, the way that the Falcons' offenses ran, there's a lot of really talented pieces there. But I'll tell you this right now. If it wasn't for the Raiders hiring Luke Getsy, I'd say that the Raiders and the Falcons would make the most sense. Like, when I made a show literally like a month and a half ago before the Raiders hired Getsy, and I had Fields as a no doubt a potential QB for this team. And the reason why it makes sense is because of all of these reasons right here. The Raiders pick at 13. You might not be able to get a top quarterback. And I know that the Raiders want an athlete at the quarterback position. Then it's not going to be expensive. It's not going to cost a lot of money to get Fields. Like this year, it would end up costing the Raiders, I think, like $6 million on their cap. Quarterback, let's be real. And then if they wanted to give him that fifth-year option, it would be $22 million the following year. Both of those numbers, I mean, $28 million for 2 years for Justin Fields or over $30 million for Kirk Cousins. Think about it. He does fit with what Antonio Pierce wants. They want a quarterback who is an athlete that also can run the football. That's what Justin Fields is. The Raiders players that I've talked to loved him. Hell, I made a video 3 months ago about how multiple Raiders players told me that they liked Justin Fields and they would welcome him with open arms. And then Champ Kelly, the Raiders assistant GM, drafted Justin Fields with the Chicago Bears just a few years ago. Like, the connections are absolutely there for Justin. I had Fields as my number one quarterback option for the Las Vegas Raiders. Then they hired Luke Getsy as the OC. Like, now the fact that they hired Getsy, and Getsy has already said, it has been very well documented by multiple Raiders beat reporters, that the Raiders believe that Justin Fields was the problem, not Luke Getsy, and that's why he ended up getting the job. So why on earth would you bring somebody that you've already said is the problem to Las Vegas to pair him with the guy that he already struggled with in Getsy? It doesn't make any sense, and it's why I'm very confident the Raiders are not going to trade for Justin Fields. So here's my final question on today's show. Since we talked about Aidan, since we talked about Justin Fields, and since we talked about Kirk Cousins, I want to play a game. And this is the honest game where it is the idea of you already told 0% chance. Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, you're not getting any of them. You're not getting any of them. So what are you going to do? Are you going to roll it again with Aidan O'Connell in year 2? Are you going to try to trade for Justin Fields and do that whole thing again with Luke Getsy? Or are you going to say, you know what, I'm going to pay up some money and I'm going to give Kirk Cousins a deal because he might be the best quarterback out of all three of these. He's also going to cost the most. So out of these three QBs, who would you pick? What you're going to see coming up here is what I believe is the most likely to happen. The most likely to happen is this. At number 1, it's Kirk Cousins. At number 2, it's Aidan O'Connell. At number 3, it's Justin Fields. If you were to ask me what I would personally do, I would still say number 1, Kirk Cousins. Number 2, Justin Fields. Number 3 is Aidan O'Connell. To me, it reminds me of last season when I said it would be a disaster for the Raiders to sign Jimmy Garoppolo. It was a disaster. I also said it would be a disaster for the Raiders to roll with Derek Carr again. I think that's a fair statement to make as well. It would be a disaster and a failure for Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce to go into this season with Aidan O'Connell as your starting quarterback. For that reason, out of all those options, Kirk Cousins is the most likely and the best option for the Silver and Black.